Hello, this is Mrs. Phinn here, and today I'm going to talk you through your child's primary report. You may have noticed that over the weekend and yesterday that all of the primary reports were uploaded onto GEMS Connect, so you should be able to access these now at your own leisure. So I'm just going to talk you through what this report might look like and how to understand this for your child at the different year groups across the primary. So if your child is in FS1, you will have received a report that looks like this. So at the top, we've just got the child's name and the teacher. Very important information here. You've got your attendance percentage and punctuality. So we can see that this child's attendance, according to KHDA, would be regarded as outstanding. Then we have the different areas of learning across the early years foundation stage curriculum. So the first three that you can see here are linked to personal, social and emotional behaviour. The next two are linked to physical development. So we've got moving and handling, which would include small motor movements, so fine motor, and gross motor movements. That would also include the movements that they require for writing. And then we've got health and self-care, all about keeping clean, toileting, etc. And then the next three come under what we would call communication and language. So their ability to listen and attend in the classroom, understanding spoken English and be able to respond in a way that shows their understanding, and then also using spoken English. And then we have English subjects and literacy subjects, which are reading and writing. And then we have maths, numbers, shape, space and measure, which would include things like estimating with capacity, etc., naming shapes, describing shapes. And then we've got understanding the world, understanding the people in the communities around them, and then the world, which is mainly science investigation, and of course technology, which would include ICT. And then we've got expressive arts, so everything from painting, using media, colours, different materials, and singing, being imaginative and participating in that imaginative play that's really important in the early years for developing language and understanding of others. So you'll see that down this column, we've got your child's current attainment. So that will tell you where your child was at the end of term 2 in terms of the early years curriculum. And then very important here is the end of year predicted attainment. This is the one that you'll really want to pay attention to, because this lets you know if your child is on track to meet the requirements at the end of that year group. And I'll just go through that for each of the year groups as we move through the reports. So as you are not teachers, you might find it quite difficult to understand what this means. What is this 30 to 50 S? What does that mean? So just down at the bottom here, we've given you a bit of an explanation. So if your child, and it's important to note that this is for the end of year predicted attainment column. So this applies to this column, not your child's current attainment, because your child's current attainment is a snapshot of where they are now, or sort of at the end of term 2, and this is where we predict them to be at the end of the year. So the box at the bottom that gives the explanation is based on those end of year predictions. So if your child was predicted to end the year on 22 to 36, B being beginning, D developing, S secure, or 30 to 50 beginning, or 30 to 50 developing, that would be your child was working towards the expectation at the end of the year, so they hadn't quite met the expectation. Again, this is a prediction. So if your child is showing that one of their grades here falls within this category, you can speak to your child's teacher about what you can do, what the teacher can be doing, perhaps the teaching assistant, to support your child in closing that gap before the end of the year. So if you've got any areas which are here, those will be the areas that you really want to focus on with your child. Just to explain the numbers, which many of you will know already, we have a document called Development Matters. If you Google Development Matters in the early years foundation stage, you will find a document which has got lots of different sort of learning behaviours, which are typical of children from birth right up until they go to primary school in year 1. For some reason, the document is laid out in months instead of years. So it would go, from 0 months right up through all the different age bands in months. So 22 to 36 applies to 22 to 36 months old. So that would be up to 3 years old. 30 to 50 would be children who are 30 to 50 months old. So that would be sort of the age of all of our FS1 children. We might have some children that are creeping into the 40 to 60 months there as well. So you'll see that this child, if we look at, they've got 30 to 50 securing. This child is predicted to be working at stage-related expectations by the end of FS1. Equally, if we had any 40 to 60 month beginning in there, that would mean that child again is working towards those stage-related expectations. If your child is working at 40 to 60 developing, or 40 to 60 secure, or if they've met the early learning goal in FS1, they would be working above stage-related expectations. To be honest with you, it's quite rare that you would find a child who was working at sort of above stage-related expectations at this very, very young age, because they're still developing across all of those areas. So really, if your child is working here, we are quite certain that by the end of the foundation stage, which would be the end of FS2, that they are going to be doing very well, and that's where you see children starting to work above the expectation. So I'll just have a look at a FS2 report. So again, you'll find all the key information at the top. You'll find the attendance here. So you'll see that this child actually would be classed as having very weak attendance because their attendance is down at 81%. That's not typical of what we would see for a child in primary. So again, you've got your different areas of the curriculum. I won't go through these again. You've got your current attainment, where we think the children were at the end of FS2, and then you'll see that, at the end of term 2, and then you'll see that we've got the end of year predicted attainment again. Again, this box down here gives you an explanation around this column. So we're really focusing on where are we predicting that the children are going to be at the end of the year, and what does that mean for your child. So you'll see that we've got lots of different codes, if you like, here. So ELG just stands for Early Learning Goal. So there are 17, that's all of these areas here, there are 17 early learning goals across the early years foundation stage. We would strive that all children would meet the early learning goals in all areas. That would be the perfect outcome for FS2 children. But some children will go above and beyond, and some children will exceed the early learning goals. So we've just indicated that with EXC, and you'll see just down at the bottom, if a child's got EXC, the child is on track to exceed the early learning goal. So they'll be working at a sort of greater depth of knowledge and skill than we would expect at the end of FS2, which is great. So again, in these areas, this child is on track to meet the early learning goal, which is spot on where we want them to be to meet that curriculum standard. But you'll see that in one area, this child is down as 40 to 60 secure. So in FS2, if any children have a predicted end of year attainment, which includes any of these months bands, and it doesn't say ELG, then that child is predicted to still be working towards the curriculum standard at the end of the year. So what does this mean if this is your child? So basically, you know that anywhere that says ELG or EXC, which is exceeding, that your child is confident with that part of the curriculum. But if you were the parent of this child, you would be wanting to speak to the class teacher around this grade here. So when we have a race conference and you get to have your private appointment with the teachers, you will be speaking to the teacher about what you can do. So it might be that the teacher might recommend some phonics activities to be doing with your child. It might be that through the daily lessons that you have more of a focus on those lessons with your child, and the teacher can give you lots of advice about what to do, okay? And the teacher will also be working to kind of plug gaps from their end. I forgot to mention earlier that on all of the FS reports there will be a second page which will go through some next steps for your child to focus on. Okay, I hope that was helpful. There is another video for any parents who have other children in the primary years 1 to 6, which you might find helpful to understand those reports. Thank you very much. Again, if you've got any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with the class teacher.